You know that feeling, right? Where your energy just seems to evaporate during a totally normal, simple conversation about the weather? So many of us feel it, and we usually just end up blaming ourselves. Well, today, we're going to unpack the real psychology behind why that chit-chat can be so incredibly draining.
And that really is the core idea. This isn't just some minor annoyance or, a social preference. For some of us, small talk is a genuine energy vampire. And there are very real psychological reasons why.
I mean, exactly what I'm talking about. You walk into a party, you're feeling pretty good. You exchange a few pleasantries about how you got there, and then, bam. All of a sudden, you have this overwhelming urge to find a quiet corner and just stare at your phone. Where did all your energy go?
So, right off the bat, I want to make this crystal clear. If this sounds like you, you are so not alone, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. This isn't about being shy or awkward or antisocial, it's about how your brain is wired. So, let's completely shift our perspective here. We're going to reframe this whole experience, moving away from that self-criticism and into a genuine understanding of your own social energy system. This right here, this is the key. On one side, you've got that negative inner voice telling you, I'm just awkward. But the psychological reality? It's that your brain prioritizes depth. That feeling of being awkward isn't a flaw. It's just a side effect of a brain that's constantly searching for substance, for something real to latch onto. See? It's a feature, not a bug.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What is the actual mental price you're paying for all this chit-chat? Because it's a lot more expensive than you might think.
The first big reason is that for your brain, small talk is a seriously high-effort workout. It might seem simple on the surface, but it creates a ton of what psychologists call cognitive load. Think about it. You're constantly juggling tasks, trying to listen to topics you don't really care about, thinking up socially acceptable things to say, reading body language, making eye contact. It's a multitasking nightmare, and your brain never gets to just focus on one deep thing. And all that mental work leads directly to number 2. It just rapidly drains your mental battery. Your brain's processing power is kind of like a smartphone. A deep, engaging conversation is like running one really well-made app. Sure, it uses energy, but it does it efficiently. Small talk? That's like having 20 different apps open at once, all hogging resources and slowing things down. It just burns through your mental energy at a crazy pace.
And the third cognitive cost is really all about friction. Because small talk demands constant mental task switching. I mean, the whole point of chit-chat is to jump from one shallow topic to another. The weather, your weekend, some new coffee shop. Your brain never gets to settle into that satisfying state of flow. Every single time you switch topics, it creates a little bit of mental friction, a tiny cost that just adds up and up until you feel scattered and totally spent.
And this chart just perfectly illustrates the whole thing. I mean, look at the difference here. A deep, focused conversation still takes mental energy, of course, but it's way more efficient for your brain. Small talk, on the other hand, demands almost maximum effort for what often feels like zero reward. But listen, this isn't just a cognitive thing. It's not just about brain power. This goes deeper. It's about a fundamental emotional need. Which brings us to the conflict small talk creates between our need for authenticity and our desire for a real connection.
So the fourth reason this is also draining is a big one.
It creates a conflict with your authentic self. When you're a person who values substance, having to engage in superficial conversation can feel like you're just performing, like you're playing a role instead of actually being you. And that gap between who you really are and who you're pretending to be creates this powerful internal friction that is just plain exhausting.
And that feeling of being inauthentic, it's directly tied to reason number 5,
which is simply that it fails to create a meaningful connection. We humans are wired to connect with each other. It's a core psychological need. But small talk almost never satisfies that need. It's like eating social junk food. Yeah, it might fill the silence for a minute, but it leaves you feeling empty. And ironically, it can make you feel even more lonely than you did before you started talking.
and that lack of fulfillment points to our 6th and final reason.
The reason it all feels so pointless is that it lacks the reward of genuine discovery. A great conversation leaves you with something new, a new idea, a different perspective, a cool story. Your brain's reward system actually gives you a little hit of dopamine when that happens. Small talk, it offers no such payoff. You spend all of that mental and emotional energy for nothing. And that total lack of a psychological reward is exactly what makes it feel so draining.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway here?
It's really about shifting from dreading these situations to actually understanding what's going on inside your own head and honoring it.
Here's the new mindset. First, just acknowledge that this is how you operate. Your preference for depth isn't a defect. It's a valid part of who you are. Second, you now understand the why, that cognitive load and the authenticity conflict we talked about. And finally, you can use that understanding to consciously seek out the kinds of conversations and connections that actually recharge your battery instead of draining it flat.
And that's really what I want to leave you with. Maybe the answer isn't about forcing yourself to get better at something that fundamentally exhausts you. What if instead, you just gave yourself permission to build your social life around what truly energizes you, around meaningful, authentic, big conversations? What would that change for you?